So, let's talk about Christmas. Today is December 26th, 2024, and obviously Christmas was yesterday, and a lot of stuff was going on throughout the day, and a lot of, lingering thoughts and themes and memories kind of swing like a pendulum coming in and out of my mind and bring me into like this forceful reminders of things that have happened, which then led to like a rabbit hole of different memories that all kind of like loosely linked together. And it just kind of got me thinking about all of these different moments in life that are all connected by the music, the atmosphere, the color palette, the lights, the movies, the TV show specials, the food and the drinks and like the smell of hot cocoa and stuff like that that just kind of all creates like this branching web of Christmas, you know what I mean? And that kind of just got me thinking throughout the day, the night before and the day of some Christmas memories that I kind of wanted to go over and share some things that mean something to me, memories that stick out, and things that are kind of perpetual throughout the holiday season. Now, if you know me, November and December are generally tough times of the year for me. I've talked about it before. I'm going to kind of briefly go over it, but at the end of November, my relationship ended, which is kind of something that like I've I've come to terms with and I've definitely gotten past for the most part, having it been like 5 years now at this point. Still something that lingers, but that still is like, that since not being in a relationship currently, being single, that kind of thing still creeps its head creeps its ugly head back up around those times where I don't have somebody new to put that kind of emotion into in that way. So the lack of that and the loss of that comes back at the end of November when that ended. And then leading into December where it's my birthday, my mom's birthday, my dad's birthday, was my grandmother's birthday, but she has passed. And there's just all these birthdays, so I get that stark reminder of people getting older, time getting shorter, and on top of like seasonal depression, on top of just like bills coming due, car registration, car inspection, and then just like it's winter, so like the fuel bill and stuff like that. So like all these things pile on to make November, December a pretty stressful time of the year for everybody, and I'm not exempt from that. And I have my own hurdles to get over this time of year. This year was pretty good. I did pretty good to stay positive. Um, and a lot of that I think had to do with the fact that I'm definitely in a better financial situation than I have been for the past like 5 years. So that kind of allowed me to sift through the memories in a little bit better of a light. So I wanted to take this moment, like I said, to go over a couple things. So, and this is just a bunch of notes that I made completely out of order, just randomly as they popped into my head. So, and I'll do my best to elaborate. So I do remember one Christmas. I don't know what year it was. I mean, judging by the game, like the game had already been out for a little while, but I remember that I was already like in my late teens or whatever, and I could not sleep. I've always had the problem of not being able to sleep Christmas night as a kid because of just I've always had anxiety, so that kind of built on, and then just the oh boy, waking up for Christmas morning. I'm not unique in that. We all have that, but I really couldn't sleep that night, and so it was like I don't know. I want to say maybe five in the morning, and I decided like I need to do something for another hour or so, or another couple hours until things start to mobilize. So I opened up Fear, First Encounter Assault Recon on the Xbox 360, and I hadn't played much of it. I think I only just recently got it at that time, and I know because this was a one of the jump scares in the game was new to me, and it was pretty early on. It was like maybe mission 2 or something, and it's a jump scare where you're enter like a air duct vent and you're crawling through, and then all of a sudden the girl Alma spawns in front of you and just starts to crawl at you really fast and then disappears in your face. And I remember that was the first time I saw that. It's 5 a.m. I'm sleep deprived. I'm anxious. It's Christmas morning. I experienced that jump scare, and I did. I jumped out of my skin, and I remember it freaked me out from all those things. So I closed out the game and went about doing Christmas or whatever. But when I think of an early Christmas morning, I think of Fear, the game, and that jump scare, which is interesting. I do also remember growing up as a kid being at my grandmother's house for Christmas morning or Christmas evening if we went over there. We go over to my grandmother's for Christmas evening after we did it at our house. We'd go over there and have another little Christmas with them, with my grandmother and my grandfather. And I thought about this yesterday when my mom was like, "Alexa, play Christmas music," and just shouts it into the bedroom, and that just kind of like made me pause for a moment of really reconciling with technology and the advancement of it, because I'm sitting there in old head being currently 31, which by the way, shoot me in the fucking head. Do not miss being 31, and I'm looking back and remembering, oh wow, my grandmother used to pop in the same Christmas CD in the stereo, set that thing up on the kitchen table, and just play the music from the stereo and run it on a loop as we went about our days doing Christmas activities. And it's just something about that analog stereo. Just it makes me happy. I do love analogs. I love old technology like that. And I mean old. It's old now, but I like the technology I grew up with because it's just more mechanical. I like the mechanical stuff. I like buttons. I don't like touch screens. I've never liked touch screens. Another thing, speaking of my grandmother's, we would always go over, in the a week or two leading up to Christmas. Well, closer to the beginning of the month, but because it was such a daunting task, oftentimes as we got older, we procrastinated it. And we go over because she had a fake Christmas tree that she had for a very long time that you'd have to assemble, of course. Bring it up from the basement, you get like the spine, like the trunk of it in two or three pieces, and then you'd have every single branch, and all the branches were metal rods with the pine on them with the needles, and you'd actually have a 90-degree hook that would slot into the base of the Christmas tree all the way up, and they all had color coded stickers so you knew the sequence of big to small kind of thing because some of them were pretty close in the same size, so you had to have the stickers to differentiate as you went up. And I just remember all the time going over. I remember like the sharp stab of the pine needles because they were just rigid plastic, but like nice quality. 'Cause, they've lasted like 30 years. It's still in the basement. I still have it in a big tote. We were gonna put it up this year, but we didn't have a spot for it because it's pretty big. I just remember going up as a kid and being so excited to put the tree together, and then when it was done, to just sit back and look at the colors. And then usually it would take like an hour or two to put the tree together as a kid, and then we'd come back another time, like the next day or a couple days later, to actually decorate it, putting up the same decorations my grandmother always had, stringing up the lights. I hate stringing the lights. We all hate it, especially with this big ass tree because you had to like walk around and pass it behind it, and yet it was like a team effort because the tree was wide. So that's a very fond memory, and I do look forward to hopefully next year when I can actually assemble that tree again and actually have a better spot to put it up because the bunnies own the living room, so I can't put the fake tree in the living room because they'll eat it. I mean, I guess I could put it up there and just not assemble the lowest branches so they can't reach it, but I also don't have a good spot because our we got a big ass horseshoe, like a horseshoe shaped like big L couch that I grabbed from my parents because they were getting rid of it. Fuck that couch. I hate it, but it's huge and it takes up most of the living room. And of course, me, like everybody else, I used to get up when I couldn't sleep at night after midnight and just go sit in front of the tree in the quiet loneliness of a still Christmas Eve. You know, those are precious memories. And I don't have really vivid, specific memories of a time that I did that, but I know I did it, and I can imbue myself with the magic of that moment, even though a lot of it is kind of constructed and borrowed from other people's memories, and like the feelings you get passed on from like a movie or a TV show of somebody doing that. I know that I kind of employ those into my own memory. There was this one time actually we had a cat named Socks because he's a black cat with white paws up to like his knee bend. And I remember that little fuck. He ate some tinsel, which is not uncommon, but he ate the tinsel, and he was walking around, and we noticed something weird about him. We didn't know he had eaten it, and this is how we found out. He actually had tinsel hanging out of his ass. He had one long silver string hanging out probably 5 inches out of his asshole, and we're like, "What the fuck, Socks?" So we actually had to grab him and like grab it and like very slightly pull it out. And I remember him going like, "Ow!" as he like, and he ran away. It was. Yeah, that stands out. That's a funny old memory. It's a very brief one, but something that just stays in you. Dumbass cat with tinsel hanging out of his asshole. I remember my nana taking us Christmas caroling. You know, she was involved in the church, so we'd oftentimes go to church. And while I wasn't religious, my grandmother was, and we would often go and have experience like the church choir, the hymns and stuff like that. And then she would take us Christmas caroling. We'd go see all of her like elderly friends and some other like rich families that just stand around watching you mumble Silent Night. And there was this one house where this old lady lived alone, really dark in there with like, one bold yellow dim light sitting there next to the couch. And she's there with her walker, not able to move very much. And the whole house stank because it was so cold outside. So the house is really hot because old people keep the house at like 85 degrees in the winter, which I get that. I'm not bashing them for that. But, you walk into this really dry, hot house and the whole place stank so bad like cat piss. I'm not exaggerating, I could not breathe. There was not a single ounce of air escaping my lungs that wasn't tainted in cat piss. It was so bad. It was the most rancid, stale shit on the planet. And that was one of the last times I think I went caroling, not for that reason, but just from aging out, and my grandmother being less mobile in that way to walk around to like up to the houses and do caroling. A general memory here is, growing up in the age of physical media with VHS tapes, DVDs, PS2 games, and stuff like that. That was one of my favorite things is seeing a game case and being like, oh boy, is that a video game or is that a DVD? What could that be? And then opening up and seeing Jack 2 on PlayStation 2. This is the best, or Sly 3. And just getting video games. I miss getting video games because back then, playing on PS2, that was you got games much more rarely. There weren't as many games being released, and a game that you got would last you most of, if not all of the year and into the next year before you would get a new one. And so getting a new game was like the best because games were more complete back then in a sense. I know it's a completely different environment now, but getting a game, it had felt like it had so much more replay value back then because you were forced to replay it over and over again because it was one of six games that you owned. So there's just the joy of that. Then opening up like a VHS tape or something like that, just opening physical things that wasn't, I don't know, that was something you actually wanted. Because now if I want a game, it's digital, and while that's convenient, I like having the physical games, and I miss that. I miss opening that. Obviously, there's the joy of waking up in the morning, walking through the kitchen or something, and turning the corner, and just the joy of seeing the lights and all the presents under the tree. Because my parents, not like we are rich, and I mean, barely scraping by middle class, not even. But my parents are like, let's put ourselves in credit card debt to make sure the kids have good Christmas because that's what they do. Um, Even this year, when I'm like, don't give me anything besides maybe a little bit of cash so I can pay down some bills and pay for my car registration, and they actually stuck to it this year. They didn't get me really anything besides a stocking, and which had just a couple like little things in it. And then my mom just gave me cash, but she still gave me like more than what I was asking, not even asking for, but just more than I expected, which is like, I told you guys to fucking save your money. But they just like to spoil in that way when they can. And I think in a way, it's also them trying to like buy affection because I don't have a lot of common with my parents, and I think they know that they're not very close to the kids when it comes to hobbies and interests and being able to spend time with them, and because they're always working. So I feel like Christmas and birthdays is their way to make up for the lack of that relationship because it's a difficult thing I'm not going to get into, but yeah. So, yeah, turning the corner and seeing all the boxes of presents. Plus, there's a bunch of us kids, so there's always a lot of presents under the tree because there was a lot of kids. The house always had 10 people in it, including my parents, so it was always full. I remember writing letters for Santa and being so happy that wake up in the morning, seeing the letter, that there was a return letter written saying thank you all, whatever have you, and seeing like a cookies and the carrot had a bite taken out of it from the reindeer, and I knew it was my dad writing the letter pretty quickly because I recognized his handwriting, his illiteracy, and the little doodles he would do. He'd do like a little face with the tongue sticking out or something, and I knew that that's how my dad drew. So it was pretty easy to figure out he was writing the letters. But yeah, just I remember the joy of seeing the carrot with a bite taken out of it. That was always like, oh boy. Oh, I just realized I didn't plug my phone in last night. I have 47% battery for the day. Whoops. My favorite Christmas song was and still is Jingle Bell Rock. I had Christmas. I think it was a doy. A doy? Excuse me. It was a toy dog that would stand up, and it was a a singing toy. Squeeze the paw, and it would play a Christmas song. And it was a tan toy with his tongue sticking out, and it would bark Jingle Bell Rock. I do remember that the Yeti in the Rankin Bass Christmas movie. I don't remember which one, but the Yeti in that one, the you know what I'm talking about. That thing scared the fucking shit out of me as a kid. A lot of those movies did 'cause the stop motion stuff always kind of was janky and creepy to me. Like I said, we would do Christmas at my family's house, and then later in the afternoon, we would bring food over and go to my grandmother's house and do Christmas dinner over there, as well as another smaller Christmas, which was usually clothes and stuff like that from my grandmother, which obviously really nice, stuff like that. But it was just great to. I remember again walking in from the cold to a house that's way hotter than it should be in the winter, 85 degrees, because old people, and just the smell of the house, the smell of dinner cooking, just the warmth walking in and looking and seeing the tree all lit up, the TV playing a baseball game or something like that, and you're just, yeah, this is it, man. This is it. Something I'll never experience again. Not in that way. And then a lot of times around either before or after Christmas, within the week of Christmas, we would drive to Massachusetts to go visit my aunt and my grandmother, my other grandmother, and we would do Christmas over there, like a really small Christmas and a dinner, and hang out with that part of the family, my dad's side of the family. And that would be a whole day affair, And it felt like forever because it was like an hour and a half, 2 hour car drive down to Mass. And then we'd leave at like 7 or 8 p.m. to get home for 9 or 10. And on the way, well, we'd probably leave a little bit earlier on the times where on the way back, we would stop at these cul de sacs that were all decorated with Christmas lights. It was like the point of the cul de sac was a Christmas drive through. And we would all just do slow laps around and just sitting in the back seat of the car, every single house just on fire with lights, and then just really peaceful with Christmas music playing, the window cracked slightly with the chill coming in, fall asleep on the way home, get carried in by my parents. And there's something about choir music too, like again, what I mentioned before, going to church and stuff like that, and listening to the church groups sing Christmas songs and like their religious songs about Jesus. And I thought about this the other day, how like I envy the part of me that I envy who. Why the fuck am I getting so many Discord messages? Jesus. Um, I envy the version of me that grew up to be oblivious and to not think too deeply into all this stuff, into like religion and the Holy Spirit and all that stuff, and to actually draw meaning from those Christmas songs in that way, because there was a time where that was me, and I've since, I've developed my frontal cortex. I've developed my frontal lobe, and I have critical thinking skills. And so now it's all just pretty bullshit to me. But I do think every time Christmas comes around, I listen to the song of like, "Oh Bethlehem" and "Is Christ the Lord," like all these songs. It does make like a little warm pit in my stomach because there's a version of me that fully believes that and that is happy with it, and I envy that version of me. And I kind of mourn the loss of that. But it's also a good thing because I know that like I am thinking for myself and I'm following the things that I believe in, which is not very much. So, but it's interesting because those things kind of get reignited with those songs. But I still love those songs. I think they're great because I love old music like that. I love music from the 20s to the 50s and 60s, and some late 70s stuff. I don't like when we get into the 80s, but you know just those old ass tinny recordings. I love them. we always went to a supermarket nearby that had a Santa photo event, and just I remember going into this place and going and getting pictures with Santa and listening to the younger siblings cry. And every time I go into that supermarket now as an adult, I look to that area, and they still do it to this day. But I look to that area and think, "Yep, I used to sit on an old sweaty dude's lap and get my picture taken right there." And then we kind of transitioned to how Christmas changed as an adult. After I moved out of my parents' house for the first time, and I moved to Michigan with my ex, and we were the technical term for it, I believe, is broke as fuck. And we actually couldn't even afford to get a fake tree, let alone a real tree. And we borrowed a cardboard cutout tree that my ex's mom had for years that she made. She was like a seamstress, she was a crafty person, and she made this cardboard cutout tree that we like attached to our wall where a tree would go, and we put little pieces of garland, we hung little lights on it and stuff. Like, I mean, this thing must have been 2 feet tall, two foot and a half wide. Like, it's a small ass, maybe 3 feet by 2 feet. It was not very big, and that was our first Christmas in the apartment. Was this, and I love that. I'm not complaining at all. I think that that is adorable. That's amazing, and that's really precious because it is a unique memory that stands out, and it was beautiful. I love that little tree. I remember just sitting on the floor in front of a wall with a flat cardboard tree and doing our first Christmas together. It's just really special. Um, and then just the difference in going to her parents' house for dinner. It was, it was obviously pretty close to the same, but just you go over there and they have like Die Hard playing on TV because they think it's a Christmas movie. It's not. And just to have all these National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, whatever, which is actually a really good movie. I'm pretty stingy and curmudgeonly when it comes to a lot of Christmas movies. And yeah, I say that my favorite movie for Christmas is Jingle All the Way, but whatever. And I also love the Grinch Christmas movie too. Those are amazing. Um, but yeah, it's just such a different vibe going to her house, her parents' house, and doing Christmas because they are religious. They are like religious homeschooled people kind of thing. So just a much different vibe. And yeah, for that first Christmas, I still have it. We did a video that I posted privately on YouTube to send to my parents of us opening Christmas gifts in the morning, gifts from each other, and gifts that my parents had mailed out to us. So I still have that video. That was 2017, I believe. So that's 2016. I don't remember. And I think that's mostly gonna do it. Yeah, that's a lot of the stuff that I wrote down yesterday. There's obviously more stuff. There's always more stuff, but I think that'll about do it. Just me reminiscing on things, give you guys a little insight on how the holiday season is for me in general, and I can't wait for it to be over. But I'm also stressing because it's hitting me of how much work I have to do at the beginning of the year, and how much work I have to do before the end of the year when it comes to writing. Think about writing stuff, but yeah. Anyway, so Christmas, not my favorite holiday, but definitely a holiday that I dread throughout the year, and that I get that nostalgic excitement for as it's here, like in the 3 days of Christmas, the Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and day after Christmas are like the most exciting days of Christmas for me. Everything before that is like, ugh, I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about it. Everything after that is, oh God, another year, here we come. I just, it's such There's such a dichotomy of emotions with Christmas for me. But this year, I can say, not a bad Christmas. We avoided political shit. We avoided having Fox News on the TV, and it overall went smoothly. And I'm usually not able to get presents for people or many because just money is always so tight. And I'm just really bad at procrastinating it too. And no one in my family besides like my siblings have any fucking personality. Like buying presents for my parents, impossible. They have no personality and they have no interests, and there's nothing you can get them that they don't already just get themselves throughout the year, because we're all those people. We all, if we want something and we can mildly afford it, even if we can't afford it sometimes, we just get it for ourselves, you know? We try to make Christmas lists throughout the year, but it's hard because, my dad's like, "Oh, just get him tools." But all he gets is tools. So I don't want to get him tools. Get my mom nothing. She doesn't have any fucking personality, so you can't get her anything. it's difficult, but I actually managed this year to spend a decent amount of money because I actually got a holiday bonus this year, which so most of that got immediately funneled into Christmas gifts, and I got everybody something except for my younger sister because she and her fiance or her husband actually, sorry, not fiance, her and her husband and whatever, they did their own Christmas. So without them being there, I wouldn't have an opportunity to get her anything. Plus, I don't know what to get her because she doesn't have her personality is classic rock. So I don't know, difficult. But anyway, I think that'll about do it. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you want to share some of your fondest Christmas memories or Christmas woes to vent in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video or podcast. Happy holidays.